Hello, my name is Chloe Barwick and I will be discussing with you how to assist students within your Year 2 classroom who have learning difficulties with telling time whilst all other students are present within your classroom. The Australian curriculum states for Year 2, students tell time to the quarter hour using language past and true. Next slide. Regular assessment on individual progress is needed within any classroom. Westwood states that through using curriculum-based tests, teachers are able to accurately assess and monitor the knowledge and skills of their students and can determine students' stages of development. Carter, Frobisher and Roper suggest that regular assessment that is directly linked to curriculum areas with set objectives informs teachers of any potential learning difficulties some students may possess. The following assessment has been designed to identify specific numeracy needs of students with learning difficulties along the proposed sequence of skills with telling time. The sequence of skills that will be addressed refers to 1 or 2 year levels below Year 2, including telling time to the hour, telling time to the half hour, this is Year 1 level, and telling time to the quarter hour using the language of past and true, which is the Year 2 level. Next slide. For the first assessment question, students are provided with the opportunity to display their knowledge of using an analog clock face to tell the time to the hour. The students have to write the time seen on the analog clock in the box below. For example, question 1A, the student would write 12 to make 12 o'clock. For the students to show they have successfully achieved this skill, they will need to get 3 out of 3 questions correct. The second question asks students to show if they are able to tell the time to the half hour. Out of 3 time options, the students have to circle the correct time shown on the clock face. For example, question 2A, the student would circle 2:30 as a correct answer. To achieve this skill, students need to get 3 out of 4 questions correct. The Australian curriculum states that by the end of Year 1, students should be able to tell time to the half hour. Next slide. Finally, the last question on the assessment allows students to display if they are able to use an analog clock face to tell the time to the quarter hour and use the language of past and true. In this question, the students have to look at an analog clock and circle the word past or true to make the sentence below correct. For example, question 3A shows an analog clock displaying the time 4:45. For the students to get this question correct, they will need to circle the word quarter for the sentence to correctly read. This clock shows 4:45. For this skill to be successfully achieved, the students need to get 3 out of 4 of the questions correct. If the skills are not met, teachers can make adjustments to their whole class teaching to teach each skill. Next slide. So how can we adjust our teaching to teach the skills which students had learning difficulties, but while our whole class is present? To sufficiently enable the students with difficulties to be taught as well as the rest of the class, the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is an effective instructional practice to incorporate to develop an inclusive classroom. The UDL involves 3 main principles: multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression, and multiple means of engagement. Next slide. For students to be able to understand how to tell time on a clock, they need to initially have a conceptual understanding of time. The students who did not achieve the skill of telling time to the hour during the assessment may not have a conceptual understanding of time, as telling time to the hour is the first skill in the sequence that comes after developing a conceptual understanding. An instructional adjustment to facilitate this would be appropriate to use within the classroom with all other students present, would be making effective use of concrete materials. Montag expresses that by using 3D manipulative materials to demonstrate a specific mathematical concept promotes the acquisition of conceptual understanding. When teaching the concept of time, the use of concrete materials includes the teacher consistently referring to the classroom clock throughout the day and while teaching the class about telling time, the teacher includes concrete materials for these students. Next slide. An activity that would resemble these adjustments includes a teacher initially using the clock in the classroom at the beginning of a lesson and stating the time and the day with a statement such as, it is 11 o'clock on a Monday morning and this is our time for maths. This statement will provide students with a conceptual understanding of time of day. Then for the lessons, the students are each provided with a clock face resource that hands move correctly like a real clock. Other students within the classroom are provided with the option of a clock face to write it down in digital form or to use strips of Play-Doh as their clock hands. The teacher then asks the students to show a certain time and states a familiar event that correlates with that time. For example, show me a 12:15, which is the time we go out for lunch. Once the students display the time on their clock, they put it to their chest for the teacher to see. To adapt for the students having difficulties with telling time to the hour, the teacher will still ask the whole class to show times such as a 12:15, however inform those students that they only need to show the hour. In this case, 12 o'clock. The inclusion of options for the other students incorporates universal design for learning as the student is provided with multiple means of representation. Next slide. The following adjustment will support the students who did not achieve the second learning outcome, telling time to the half hour. Wood states that there are 4 stages of learning: acquisition, fluency, maintenance, and generalization. The students who did not achieve this outcome need to develop their acquisition of the skill to master it, whereas the other children who did achieve this outcome show mastery of the skill, however may need to develop generalization of this skill. Therefore, to adjust the teaching practice to cater for the students with learning difficulties, the teacher will need to enhance learning at this stage by using lots of colour, provide minimal and clear directions, and use technology. The students who need to develop generalisation with this skill will be provided with opportunities to develop their understanding that telling time in one situation can be useful in another. Next slide. The teacher can implement these adjustments by demonstrating telling time on an interactive whiteboard with an interactive analog clock face. I'll provide you all with a website link to this interactive clock face. It's a fantastic resource with hands that move correctly together, and it also displays the time in digital form. Biro expresses that the importance of maths being made enjoyable, interesting, and easy to understand. He also states that this can be accomplished through the use of interactive whiteboards as they are easy to see and navigate, make a lesson more interactive, and provide students with an enjoyable and positive experience while learning maths. The teacher would demonstrate telling time, then telling time to the hour, then telling time to the half hour. The teacher would selectively ask students to come up and show a time on the interactive clock. For example, student A, can you please show me 3:30? This activity uses bright colours, interactive technology, and explicitly clear instructions, all essential for acquiring skills. For the students developing a generalisation of the skill, the teacher would, for example, if the skill started at 8:30, the teacher could ask student B, can you please show me the time we start school? This would allow the student to develop a generalisation that telling time to the half hour can be useful in another situation. Next slide. Finally, for those students who did not achieve the skill of telling time to the quarter hour using language passing through, it is important to begin the adjustment by explicitly teaching the skill of a quarter past the hour opposed to a quarter to the hour. USQ states that the sequence of teaching minutes past the hour before teaching minutes to the hour is vital as it follows an easy to hard progression of skills. Dober and Fine state that explicit instruction in maths facilitates high quality teaching and learning and is a solution to meet the needs of students who are developing mathematical difficulties. The students who did achieve the outcome for question 3 would also benefit from the explicit instruction as telling time to the quarter hour is to be taught to all Year 2 students. Next slide. The teacher can do this by using the interactive clock mentioned in the previous adjustment and explicitly demonstrate how the hands move together and that the minute hand needs to be pointing to the 3 to display a quarter past of any hour. During the explicit instruction, to account for the other students with lower levels of difficulties, the teacher could introduce the lesson by explicitly stating whether the minute hand needs to be to show an hour and where it needs to be to show half an hour. Students will achieve this due to the explicit demonstrations. Well, thank you for all taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to this presentation. I hope you have developed an understanding for developing adjustments for Year 2 students who display difficulties along the sequence of skills when telling time.